Fun episode of Carving Up Live on tap for tonight. We've got a lot to talk about. Micah Parsons feels like he's openly protesting before a Dallas Cowboys game, asleep on the sidelines on a bench. Talk about that, why I'm on Micah's side over Jerry Jones' side. Also, Shedeur Sanders, my guy, brutal performance against the Los Angeles Rams, why he could have really hurt his positioning to be the Cleveland Browns backup going forward. Also want to get into, later in the show, Aaron Rodgers already talking about, hey, you never know, might be back in Pittsburgh in 2026 before he's even played it down there. Talk about that. Terry McLaurin signed an extension in Washington. The Commanders traded Brian Robinson to the San Francisco 49ers. What Washington's offense will look like in 2025. And at the end of today's show, Paige Bueckers, I know this is a week-old story, still want to get into it, dominated the Los Angeles Sparks, dropping 44 points. Why the WNBA has found another brand new superstar. Talk about that. Carving Up is loaded. Drop the beat, baby. Here we go. We're rolling, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on YouTube, Facebook, and X. As always, I am Bryson Carver. We had some football this weekend, some preseason stuff. We had a ranked college football matchup, solid game in Ireland, which Iowa State was able to get the job done against Kansas State. College football's back this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Cannot wait to talk about that as we go out throughout the week. Very excited for Wednesday's show, my NFL Kickoff 2025 show. I'll preview that and tease that as we go throughout the show today. But loaded topics. You obviously heard what we got to talk about. I had to touch on Paige Bueckers and what she did last week because it was unbelievable. Watching what she did. The team she plays for, Dallas Wings, garbage. They're terrible. She's amazing. To talk about that, obviously, I did, before we even get into Micah Parsons, I did just want to mention this because I feel it is my duty as the host of the show to make sure you, the audience, I'm not a journalist by any sense of the word, but I feel like it is my duty to make sure I keep you informed on the latest happenings. And on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, this happened.
The Yankees lose.
Oh, they did. Oh, they did. Red Sox took 3 of 4 off the Yankees in Yankee Stadium. It's unbelievable stuff this year. The Yankees have only beaten the Red Sox twice this year. The Red Sox are the top wild card team in the American League, playing good baseball. My Roman Empire, Anthony, homering in Yankee Stadium on Thursday, 12-1 bludgeoning on Saturday, a 1-0 pitcher's duel Friday. It was beautiful stuff. It was beautiful stuff. And we lost last night in Sunday Night Baseball. Who cares? No one cares about that. All right, took 3 of 4 off the Yanks. Got a series against Baltimore and Pittsburgh coming up. They should take care of both of those series. So let's go Red Sox. Let's keep that push to make the playoffs for the first time in 4 years. Let's talk about what we got on tap, though. But first, we start once again with this team.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
So the Dallas Cowboys and the Micah Parsons news just continues to get uglier. So before the Cowboys preseason game against the Baltimore Ravens, Micah was on the sideline on a training bench, and we can show you the image right here for the podcast audience, those listening, asleep. I think he was eating something at one point. He was just kind of chilling, not terribly engaged in Cowboys warm-ups. We know Micah has been holding in for a contract in Dallas. There's been reports that Brian Schottenheimer, the new coach, is trying to talk to Micah, trying to reason with him, like, hey, let's see what's going on here. And what I think is amazing about this entire situation, we've talked Micah for the last 2-3 weeks since I came back to the show earlier this month, and the chaos surrounding it and how Jerry loves to drag out these contract situations. This feels a little bit different, only in the sense that if you think about last year, for example, with the Dallas Cowboys, you think about the fact that, yeah, Jerry waited forever to pay CD. He waited literally until opening day to pay Dak Prescott. But if you're a Cowboy fan going into last season, there was pessimism. There was, 3 straight 12-win seasons, but what you going to do in January? But there was an element of, well, we'll get to January. Remember who the Cowboys' opening game was? Cleveland. We'll talk about Shedeur Sanders in about 10 minutes. It was Cleveland. We were going to take care of Cleveland. Dallas fans, you're like, we're going to take care of Cleveland. Honestly, if Cooper Rush is in or if Jackson, the Browns are terrible. They're always terrible. You're opening up against the champs in a standalone game on Thursday night against the Philadelphia Eagles, your most hated rival, who happened to cruise to a Super Bowl 7 months ago, or 7 months at the point that you'll play the Eagles. Feel like to give yourself the best chance to win that in that game, or at least compete in that game, you would like to have this guy on the field, Micah Parsons. We can show you the numbers. Since entering the NFL, 5th in sacks, tied for 5th in tackles for losses. According to Pro Football Focus, he has a 94.3 pass rush grade, which ranks 2nd in the NFL. A pass rush win rate at 2nd, at 21.3%, and pressure rate 19.7%. That is 1st in the National Football League. Again, all those numbers according to our friends at Pro Football Focus. And listen, I've been critical of Mike in the sense that, not great stopping the run. How is he against the premier tackles in the NFL? He would be facing either Jordan Mailata or Lane Johnson, the Philadelphia Eagles, on opening night. He struggled against Trent Williams and some of the great tackles in years past. All of those are valid criticisms. Here's the issue, though, Dallas. Your defense might be the worst in the NFL if Micah's not there. Might be the worst in the NFL. Who's your interior defensive lineman going to be to stop the run, which was already bad with Micah? Linebacking core, one of the worst in the NFL. Trayvon Diggs, it was breaking news that he's even going to be on the 53-man roster. He's not even fully healthy, it feels like, for that Dallas secondary, which was bad to begin with. I mean, it's like, what logic does Jerry want to follow other than I'm just going to stand on principle and make this as ugly as I can be? Whether it's to fill in airspace for shows like mine, whether it's to keep the Cowboys in the news. Again, we had the soundbite. We'll play it one more time. We've kept it, and we'll probably use it multiple times this season. Jerry talking about stirring the pot in Dallas.
I do believe if we're not being looked at, then I'll do my part to get us looked at. The Cowboys are a soap opera, 365.
The training will begin
When it gets
momentarily.
slow, I'll stir it up.
Please take your seats.
So it's wonderful to have the great athletes, have the great players. But there's something more there. There's sizzle, there's emotion. And if you will, there's controversy. That controversy is good stuff in terms of keeping and having people's attention.
That's his business model. And again, I did a segment a couple of weeks ago. It's on the YouTube channel now. An intervention for Cowboys fans. Like, you have the right, if you're a Cowboys fan, to say, no mas, I'm done. I'm going to another franchise because this guy is not intent on winning, and his son, once he becomes the owner and presumably general manager, is really cheap. So it's a disaster all the way around. Folks that are getting on Micah Parsons for his behavior on the sideline or laying on the bench, to me, that would be like if you're looking at a situation where somebody committed you're looking at one person who committed murder and another person who committed shoplifting. Like, shoplifting's wrong. You shouldn't do it. You should be should have had the law come after you if you commit that crime. But murder is objectively worse, right? You should be punished. To me, and I didn't know this until Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk. Shout out to Mike Florio. And it was further discussed by Nick Wright on FS1 today. I was not aware of this. Is the fact that Jerry negotiating with Micah Parsons and seemingly, as Jerry's talked about in the past, hashing out a deal, it's handshaking with Micah Parsons, the deal's done. That's illegal according to the CBA. You can't do it. Can't do it. That's against the rules. And so folks that are taking Jerry's side, which feels like that's a minimal group. You occasionally have your folks in the media from time to time, and the small group of fans that are pro-owner. I've never seen a labor dispute in which I'd be pro-billionaire, but whatever the case may be, you'll always have those people. But I think generally folks have been on Micah's side. Even those that have attacked Micah for, he's laying on the bench. Okay, that's his first major infraction. He's with the team. Not always in the field at all times, but he's with the team. And there's no way on planet Earth. Micah, to me, clearly has the leverage in this situation. A, because the Cowboys' defense is terrible. B, the fact that the Cowboys game is on opening Thursday night of the season against the champs in Philly, it's something. That will be you will hear Chris Collinsworth and Mike Tirico and talk about it throughout the game on NBC. Like, boy, having number 11 out there could sure help, as Saquon Barkley's running for 150 yards and taking 60 yards to the crib. Of course, that's going to be something that's going to be a topic of discussion. And the next day, if Philadelphia blows the doors off Dallas and they're a touchdown favorite, you would imagine that'd be the case. A lot of public pressure on Jerry. And so it's, to me, that all adds to the leverage Micah Parsons has. Jerry also mentioned this too, which to me is an absurd claim. Well, we've got 3 years left to make this deal with Micah, essentially saying, last year of his contract now, he's in a player option year, or rather a team option year, 5th year option. And then we can franchise tag him in 2026. And if need be, franchise tag him in 2027. Okay. Do you see a world in which Micah Parsons, let's say he doesn't play a single game this year. Let's say he stands on principle. Hey, guys, I've got a back injury. That's been the reports out of Dallas. Again, you can't just skip practice for no reason. You got to have an injury. Micah, hey, I've got a back injury. Okay. Let's say he sits out the season with that back injury. You really think the Dallas Cowboys going to franchise tag him after that? Do you think that relationship is going to be, reparable if the Cowboys win 6-7 games? Micah's not out there. Maybe even some of the relationships in the locker room are tarnished to a degree. You think there's not going to be at least a segment of the fan base like, gee, would have been nice if Micah was out there? Understanding that he's obviously at this particular point in his career underpaid, but also saying, hey, I'm a Cowboys fan first. I want my team to win games. All of those factors come to the equation that work in Micah's favor for him to be with a different franchise in 2026. So this whole situation, as per usual, was caused solely and completely by one Gerald Wayne Jones. Folks that are attacking Micah, well, you shook on it. Okay, first of all, are we sure we're going to take Jerry Jones at his word in the sense that, hey, Micah agreed to the terms of a deal, he agreed on the money, the whole thing? Second of all, or he was manipulated by a general manager in Jerry who's done a lot of these contracts and despite his decline, so to speak, still knows what he's doing from a business perspective. You heard him talk about his business model. It's worked. As opposed to talking to Mulugeta, who is Micah's agent. Like it's shady business. It's bad business. And I at this point in time, and I'll give my predictions for the Cowboys on Wednesday's show, our prediction show. Very, very excited about that. I would be shocked if Micah's on the field before the end of September. I'm not ruling out him playing the season. I could see a situation in which Dallas starts 1-3, Jerry caves, Micah gets the biggest non-quarterback contract in history, and he tries to pull that sinking ship out of the water, so to speak, and help that defense, which was not going to be good with him, is going to be atrocious without him. So that's where we're at. It's remarkable just watching this devolve into something well beyond what I thought the Dak situation had devolved into last year. I was the biggest Dak Prescott fan in the world. I'm like, oh, let's go. He's going to be a free agent. My Steelers can go after him. And gosh darn it, he signed the deal on opening day. There were passive-aggressive shots from Jerry to Dak, and to a degree, even from Dak to Jerry. Hey, I may play my career somewhere else. I remember talking about that on the show. This has gotten personal. Jerry's like, yeah, sure, we can wait 3 off seasons if we want to do that. We've got 3 years to get this deal done. And Micah's like, heck with this. I will make an open mockery of the Cowboys franchise on the sideline, which, by the way, I wouldn't even go that far to say mockery. Like he's chilling on the bench, so it's an absolute disaster, and Dallas is going to pay, particularly the defense, going to pay greatly for that. No question about it. And like, if you don't want to get the deal done, trade him. He's Micah freaking Parsons. You will get a haul for him, to say the very least. So it's remarkable. Before I get to Shedeur Sanders, an AFC North story that broke about an hour ago. It would appear, if we can pull up the Adam Schefter tweet, I'm looking to get that on my phone right here. It looks like that they have the Bengals, and okay, this is from Adam Schefter. The Bengals and Trey Hendrickson have reached an agreement today on a $14 million raise for this year, boosting his 2025 salary to $30 million per sources. Here's the kicker. Hendrickson still is scheduled to become an unrestricted free agent after this season. So, in essence, he's going to be out there. He led the league in sacks last year at 17 and a half sacks for the Bengals last year. But he will be a free agent after the 2025 season, and so that's where we're at. And by the way, real quick, this just broke from ESPN. Sorry, this news is coming in before we get to the Shedeur Sanders topic. Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott is confident Micah Parsons will play in the September 4th opener against the Eagles. Here's Dak's quote. I've got confidence. I told y'all that way back when, and I'm just going off the experience, honestly, no different than mine. Dak is essentially saying, hey, my deal literally got done opening day. He's saying it may happen with Micah. And next Thursday, the news may break from Schefter, and that'll be, the Jerry and Micah may try and rain on the Eagles parade, so to speak, with the banner and everything. Maybe that's the strategy. Maybe Jerry is playing, 40 chat. I don't know. My guess is that's probably not the case, but who knows? We'll know in 10 days, to say the very least. Shedeur Sanders. So before I even say any of this, I feel like I should preface this because I got to say, I have certainly been a Shedeur supporter on this show. Without question. I said going into the 2025 draft, Cam Ward was to me clearly the best quarterback in a pretty weak class. I said Cam Ward would be about the fourth quarterback off the board in 2024, and he might be like the third quarterback off the board next year. Next year's class is stacked at the quarterback position. 2025 really wasn't. But I thought Shedeur was the second best guy. I heard the arguments for Jackson Dart. I had him no lower than third. That said, the Shedeur fan base is reminding me a little bit of the Tua fan base. Remember the whole Tuanon thing? I'll say this on the show. I have never gotten more pushback ever, well, with the exception of one video, on this show than any time that I have criticized Tua Tagovailoa. And I like Tua as a guy. I've just been critical of him as a player, his ability to win in the cold, all those different things, arm strength, the whole bit, mobility. And man, Tua fans, Dolphins fans come out your neck like they're passionate about their guy, and I respect it to a degree. That's kind of how Shedeur Sanders fans are as well. So he played in the Browns Saturday preseason finale against the Los Angeles Rams and didn't play very well. We can go and show those numbers if we have them. Do we have the story? Here they are. Shedeur Sanders numbers in 5 drives, mind you. No touchdowns, no picks, 3 for 6, 14 yards, a passer rating of 56. Yikes. And if you think those numbers are bad, it gets worse. We can show you these as well. He had 41 yards lost on 5 sacks. On 14 dropbacks, he and the Browns lost 27 yards. The Browns offense had 1 first down when he was in the lineup, and he was benched. Keep in mind, he played the whole second half except for the last drive when he was benched for Tyler Huntley, who got cut by the Browns over the weekend. And so bad all the way around. It was Shedeur's second preseason game. He missed the Browns' second preseason game because of injury. Played very well against Carolina. Didn't play the second one. Did play the third and played quite poorly. And so the Browns depth chart comes out, and it's like, okay, he's third string, fourth string. Kenny Pickett's still on the roster. And there's been this, listen, maybe it's just the society we live in where if something doesn't go absolutely the way we think there is, it's just got to be a conspiracy. I mean, look no further than the 2020 election. It didn't go the way we want. It was rigged. I tell you, it's rigged. We have no evidence, but it's rigged. That feels like where we're at right now with Shedeur and the Cleveland Browns. And I am, to say the very least, not exactly pro-Browns on the show. Not just in the fact I'm a Steelers fan, the fact I'm a Warriors fan, and Cleveland fans, nice people. They are nice individuals. I have nothing personally against them. It's just that their delusional makes me utterly sick. So I'm not exactly pro-Cleveland. But this idea that Kevin Stefanski and the Browns coaching staff is somehow trying to sabotage Shedeur Sanders, Kevin Stefanski actually had to answer that with the media the other day. Take a listen.
I don't concern myself with outside type of things. But I'm committed to his development, just like all of our rookies. So we'll continue to focus on getting our guys better. And that's what we'll stay committed to. And that's what's important to me.
What incentive is it for Kevin Stefanski and the Browns coaching staff to screw the kid over? Yes, it is true. Reading the tea leaves, reading what folks in Cleveland, reporters in Cleveland have said, it would certainly appear like Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Browns, one of the worst owners in sports, by the way, it was his idea to draft Shedeur. He wanted the spotlight and the gravitas and the flashiness of taking Deion Sanders' son, Shedeur, and the controversy. He fell in the draft. Let's take Shedeur Sanders, despite the fact that the Browns obviously had taken Dylan Gabriel a couple of rounds before that. So I do believe that the Kevin Stefanski and the Browns coaching staff were dying to draft Shedeur. If they were, they'd have drafted him obviously for before the 6th round. But Kevin Stefanski's job might be on the line. Same could be said about Andrew Berry, the general manager. I don't think either will get fired. Now, again, this is the Browns we're talking about. It's a dysfunctional franchise, but I think there is the element. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago when Shedeur played very well against Carolina, is that, yeah, they've got their first-round pick next year, which we imagine will be high because the Browns aren't a very good football team. But also, in the event that the Jacksonville Jaguars are bad, hey, you get another high first-round pick because of the Travis Hunter trade from last year's draft, or this past draft. So in a quarterback class that is loaded, I mean, we're talking maybe Arch Manning, Cade Klubnik, Drew Aller, Lenore Sellers. Like, you got some dudes coming up in this 2026 class. And maybe there's a couple of other kids who may come out of nowhere and surprise us all. You got 2 first-rounders you could use on one of those guys. Maybe if you don't get the first pick, you might use those 2 picks. If Arch is the generational talent that, there are folks in Texas believe him to be, we could trade up for Arch. Use those 2 first-round picks as capital to acquire the quarterback that we want. But if Shedeur is amazing, or if Dillon Gabriel is amazing, by the way, if either of these 2 young quarterbacks blows our socks off, because we know Joe Flacco is not a 17-game starter for the Browns, oh, great. We can just use those first 2 first-round picks as we can use one, maybe use the other to acquire some second-rounders. You've got a lot of freedom, a lot of choices in what to do in that 2026 draft. Of course, Kevin Stefanski would want one of these 2 rookies to pan out well. And the fact of the matter is, again, I'm not a Dillon Gabriel believer at all. At all. It moves fine, but it's small. The fact I'm always a little bit weary of guys. This is why I'm not a big believer in Tyler Shug in New Orleans. I'm not a big believer in guys who had to stay 5-6 years in college. Any of these guys, with the exception of Joe Burrow, that just had these unbelievable career-long stats in college, career-high stats in college, historically speaking. The Case Keenums of the world. Always be weary of those guys because there's a reason that they had to stay in college for so long. And it's like in the NBA. Yeah, is the one-and-done situation, is it beneficial to the development of young players? Not really. But there is an element of, this guy had to stay till senior year. There's probably a ceiling on how far he can develop. So I'm not a Dillon Gabriel believer long-term at all. I think Shedeur is clearly more talented than Dillon Gabriel. From what I saw on film last year at Colorado, compared to Dillon Gabriel, obviously on a more talented team in Oregon, the whole bit. But what matters is this. And this is how the NFL works. It's a harsh business. What have you done for me lately, league? I've said that many times on the show, is that if you are a 6th-round pick, again, I think Shedeur should have gone in the 2nd round. 3rd round, worst case. I think the fact that Jalen Milroe and again, Dillon Gabriel went ahead of him, Tyler Shug was crazy. I heard the argument for Jackson Dart. The other 3, no chance. I would absolutely take Shedeur over those other 3. But he was a 6th-round pick. And I talked about this a couple weeks ago on the show before his debut against Carolina. You've only got so many opportunities to prove yourself. Kudos to you. Balled out against the Panthers. Great in the red zone, efficient, kind of got over some almost took a bad sack on a 4th down in that game, looked more comfortable as time went on, despite playing with an offensive line that isn't very good. And folks say, well, he's out there with we got the mic back? Okay, sorry about that. I think we lost the mic briefly. Okay, I think we're good. No, what I was saying is, folks that are acting like there's this conspiracy to screw Shedeur Sanders' career over. Oh, man, Kevin Stefanski and the Browns, put him out there with the 2nd and 3rd stringers on the Browns. Yeah, facing the 2nd and 3rd stringers for the Rams. This isn't like it's Jared Verse and the top defenders for the Rams, Byron Young coming after Shedeur Sanders' head for the entire second half. These are backups. These are guys that have either been cut or are going to be cut. And I like Shedeur. I back the kid. I think he has the ability, if he continues to develop, to potentially be a starting quarterback in the National Football League. I do. But the bad sacks you saw in that game, again, can we put up that graphic just one more time, just to drive the point home? Forget just the regular box score numbers. To me, this is what would concern me. The 40, that top one right there, 41 yards lost on 5 sacks. Wasn't that kind of a knock him at Colorado? Now, again, he did play with the bad O-line at Colorado. Some of those sacks were self-inflicted. That's what a lot of folks got on Caleb Williams for when he played with an offensive line that was under par at USC. You're trying to do too much and you hurt your team in the long run. You take a 10, 15-yard sack. That's what Shedeur would do at times. That was a bad habit that I think can be coached out. I think Stefanski's a smart coach. For crying out loud, he's a 2-time coach of the year. So I just think this narrative of, man, they're trying to mess the kid's career up before it even begins. If he had balled out, this would not be a story. I get it. Listen, I got it. The Browns are a dysfunctional disaster class of a franchise. Been saying that since the start of this show back in 2019. They're a joke. But we weren't talking, man, Browns are a joke when Shedeur was out there torching Carolina in week 1 in the preseason. And I like the kid. I'm pulling for the kid. I would absolutely take him over Dillon Gabriel. But to act like we should just throw out a stat line, which is a 56 passer rating in a preseason game, that did happen. We can't just throw that out and act like it's irrelevant just because it doesn't suit our narrative. But this whole, man, the Browns have been starving for a franchise quarterback my whole life. Closest they came was Baker Mayfield when they got rid of him. Starving for a quarterback my whole life. You think if they thought they had it in Shedeur, and maybe they can't develop because that's their brand. But Dylan Gabriel's there and outplayed Shedeur. They're supposed to go on the results. And I'm not a believer in Dylan Gabriel long term, but he outplayed Shedeur in the preseason. Stefanski and the coaching staff's got to go on results, especially when they could be in the hot seat this year. So I think there's a cabal against Shedeur is crazy talk. And I like the kid a lot, but man, some of his most ardent supporters got to chill the heck out. So there you go. Also, I did see this. This broke a few minutes ago as we were doing the Shedeur topic. It looks like, want to confirm this, that Amari Cooper, if we can pull this up, I think Amari Cooper may have came back to the Raiders. If this news is true, yeah, okay, there you go. 1-year deal on from Amari Cooper to the Las Vegas Raiders. This according to Adam Schefter. Actually, this broke about an hour ago. My bad. But yeah, listen, Amari started his career there. It was the trade to Dallas. He was very, very good for the Cowboys for a few years. Went to Cleveland. That didn't really work. And was a decent pass catcher with Buffalo the last season. Now he's back in Vegas. So listen, Amari Cooper coming out of college in 2015, I think he was the 4th overall pick out of Alabama. Just as crisp a route runner as you'll see. The main thing with him was, where's his head at? Consistency. Is he always locked in, focused? But it's another weapon for Geno Smith. So you got Amari Cooper, got Brock Bowers. I think I saw that Jacoby Myers is asking for a trade, so we'll see how that materializes. I'm not a huge believer in the Raiders this year. You'll hear where my predictions. Matter of fact, this is probably a good time to promote it, and we'll do it throughout the show. Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, the same time as our shows always air. Wednesday night, 2 days from now, 48 hours from now, the Carving It Up 2025 NFL kickoff show. Very excited about it. It is one of, if not my favorite show of the entire calendar year. Again, that's going to be at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific time. We got all the predictions of the world, all 8 divisions, who wins all the major awards, MVP, Coach of the Year, the Rookies of the Year, offensive and defensive, the Players of the Year, offensive and defensive, Comeback Player of the Year, the whole bit. And then, of course, most importantly, playoff results and who goes to and wins Super Bowl 60 in San Francisco. Very excited about the show tomorrow. So tune in, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow night. Once again, the 2025 Carving It Up NFL kickoff show. Cannot wait. So excited about it. New season's upon us, baby. Normally I have that show on Labor Day, but I wanted to do it on Wednesday just so I had time to get out the clips and make sure that everyone's able to see them before the season starts. But I had to remind myself this morning, like, wait, is there an NFL game this Thursday? Like, no. You're used to doing it the week of the season starting. But very excited about that. College football's back this weekend. Like, what a time to be alive as a sports fan. The summer of, I got to admit, one of the slowest sports news summers I can ever remember is nearly over, and football is nearly upon us, and I can't freaking wait. Be back in just 1 minute, but staying in the NFL, the Washington Commanders trade Brian Robinson to the San Francisco 49ers and extend, the holding is over, extend Terry McLaurin to a long-term extension, 3 years, $96 million. What do I expect from their offense this season? Hear that in just 1 minute on Carving Up Live. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. So good news today for the Washington Commanders because they extended Terry McLaurin, their superstar wide receiver, 3 years, $96 million per. He now becomes one of the top highest paid receivers in the NFL, and we can show you his numbers since he became a Commander in 2019. He's been fantastic, obviously. 39 receiving touchdowns, over 6,300 yards, 460 catches. He's a two-time Pro Bowler, and last year, for the first time in his career, he was a second-team All-Pro. And again, those numbers are outstanding. They don't necessarily blow your socks up to the level like maybe a Justin Jefferson or a Jamar Chase or a CeeDee Lamb or somebody like that. But then when you put the context the quarterbacks he was working with, and we can show you the list since 2019. We got Case Keenum, Dwayne Haskins, rest in peace. Got an old Alex Smith. We got Taylor Heineke, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think that's Kyle Allen. I'm not sure. Carson Wentz, Sam Howell, Jaden Daniels, finally. Then you had a little bit of Marcus Mariota in there and some Jacoby Brissett. So he's dealt with a number of quarterbacks in Washington. So it's been a topsy-turvy situation. If there's any wide receiver deserving of great quarterback play, it's Terry McLaurin, and he's got it now in Jaden Daniels. But more Washington news we saw on Friday. They traded Brian Robinson Jr., who they'd been shopping around the NFL, to the San Francisco 49ers for a 6th-round pick in next year's draft. And so, listen, for San Francisco, like the move. I mean, if there's any coach outside of Jim Harbaugh that can make just about any running back work in the NFL, it's Kyle Shanahan. That is his bread and butter. He loves to run the football. If, God forbid, knock on wood, Christian McCaffrey goes down, and we know he has an injury history, you can trust Brian Robinson to get the job done. But again, 4 yards a carry last season, which was a career high, but isn't. It's not like the Commanders traded a superstar, and you still do have Austin Eckler, who was really good in Washington last year. And you can use Deebo Samuel, by the way, in the running game, so long as his weight is not a problem, which it was a year ago in San Francisco. But for Washington, to me, what is fascinating about the Commanders, and I'll go more in depth on them, obviously, on Wednesday's prediction show. Tune in for that, 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific on Wednesday. The thing to me that is so fascinating about Washington is that they're drawing so many comparisons to last year's Houston Texans, and you understand why. The Texans in 2023 came out of nowhere, second pick of the draft. CJ Stroud came out, dominated the league. They won a playoff game, and expectations were sky high coming into 2024. They added Stephon Diggs, and injuries to wide receivers plagued their season. The O-line was bad. CJ Stroud took a dip, statistically speaking, in his second season. They did still win a playoff game, but it was not the same Houston Texans team that we'd seen the year prior. There's similar concerns for Washington. Second overall pick, Jaden Daniels lit the league on fire. Now, the difference is Jaden got the Washington Commanders to the NFC Championship game. By the way, beat Baker Mayfield and the Red Hot Bucks in the first round on the road, went to Detroit. I know the defense was bad, and I know Jared Goff was atrocious, but you still went to Detroit, a 15-win team, the number 1 seed with a week off, and utterly dominated the Lions to get to an NFC title game that you were, of course, outclassed in against Philadelphia. And so all of those components come into the situation where you say, okay, is this just a repeat of Houston? That, to me, is not the concern, only in the sense that, I think Jaden Daniels has a higher ceiling and is better than CJ Stroud, and I like CJ. I think CJ is one of the 12, 13 best quarterbacks in the league as we sit here today. Jaden, to me, is in the discussion for top 5. I've got Hurts number 5, Jaden's number 6. We could see that battle going back and forth throughout the course of the season, and obviously they play twice a year, so that'll be fun. To me, the concern for Washington, the close wins. That's something that's, unless you are the Kansas City Chiefs or the Patriots dynasty, unless you're a dynasty, close wins are hard to sustain going into the following seasons. Remember Minnesota in 2022? I think they might have had a negative point differential, if I'm not mistaken, but they won 13 games. 12 of them were by one score. They were just somehow finding a way to claw these games, and then the next year they missed the playoffs. Kirk Cousins got hurt that year, but it was not the same Minnesota team. I don't think Washington's going to take that drastic of a step backwards. Like, gosh, this team actually isn't that good. 8 wins, 9 wins at best. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they're too well coached. I think the fact that you have continuity at quarterback, offensive coordinator with Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury is huge, is a massive advantage for Washington. The fact that they upgraded their O-line is very important. Adding Deebo certainly doesn't hurt their offense. So the only obviously concern for Washington is defensively, but Dan Quinn is a defensive guy, so maybe he can get that fixed, at least more so than it was last season. But you think about the Hail Mary against Chicago. You think about pulling one out against the Atlanta Falcons late season. They got to win late season. It didn't really matter when it was all said and done. But going to Dallas with Marcus Mariota, they won a game last second against the Cowboys. Like, you had a long list of games that they were able to just pull out. The long throw to Terry McLaurin, who we just talked about, against the Cincinnati Bengals. That was kind of Jaden Daniels' first welcome to the NFL moment. They won a close game against the Giants before that. Like, that's kind of been who Washington was last year. And so the ability now where it's, okay, 12 wins, made a conference championship game, people view you as a serious contender in the NFC. How can we dominate teams? That's going to be difficult with the defense as struggling as much as it is. And so it is absolutely critical. Not that I didn't think they wouldn't get the deal done, but it's absolutely critical that they got this Terry McLaurin deal done. So I think Washington's in a spot where Philly's the class of the division. Washington very well could battle them for that top spot, but Philly's the defending champs. Philly has arguably the best roster in football. Can we find a way to win games where Jaden doesn't have to account for 4 touchdowns? Can we win ugly? Philly does. Kansas City does. Buffalo even can on occasion, not as much as they used to because their defense has taken a step back. The Rams won a lot of games where they scored under 20 points last year because the defense stepped up. The running game was effective. That, to me, is going to be the bar I look at for Washington, even if they maybe win less games. They won 12 games last year. Even if they win less games, sneak into the playoffs as a wild card, if they're able to win, if they can win a 23-20 game as opposed to having to win 35-31, I view them as better than they were a year ago. Because to me, it shows they have more dimensions. Because I know Jaden can put up a light show. I know what Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel and Zach Ertz and Austin Eckler and all these guys are capable of. But can you win ugly? And last year, they were not going to beat Philadelphia with that defense, playing as poorly as it was, unless Jaden Daniels went crazy in that game. And we saw what Philadelphia did to Kansas City, and they overwhelmed Washington as well. So I'm going to be really, really interested to see if they continue to take a step in the right direction in terms of being able to win close. So that'll be fascinating for Washington. But very, very important that they got the Terry McLaurin deal done. I did want to talk about this too. It's funny. I was telling somebody yesterday, I've never been more coming into a football season regarding my own team than I am with this year's Pittsburgh Steelers. So Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf, by the way, were on a podcast with Cameron Hayward, who is looking for a new contract. Pay the man. The guy's been a model citizen in Pittsburgh. He's been one of the best D tackles in football for a decade. Pay Cam Hayward. They were on his podcast. Aaron and DK, the new additions, or the most notable free agent additions. In the case of DK, I guess he was a trade to the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason on the offensive side of the ball. And DK was like, hey, we're team's really close, and I've never been this tight with a football team since I was back in college at Ole Miss. And hey, we may after this season. And again, I think some of this is just casual podcast talk. I do it from time to time on my show. Let's run it back in 2026. And they all kind of turned their heads to Aaron, who said on McAfee's show, this is probably my last year. He said, maybe. Now, we can't trust Aaron's guarantee, so he certainly can't trust his maybe. So I wouldn't look too far into that. What I will say is this, because as a guy who, going back to the 2021 playoffs, go back and look at my record on this. Aside from the unpredictable Achilles injury early in 2023, I basically correctly predicted every single stage of Aaron Rodgers' career from the end of the 2021 season on to now. I said that they would lose their first playoff game against San Francisco. They did, and Aaron was not good. The Packers scored 10 points in that game. The Niners offense didn't even score a touchdown, and San Francisco still won that game. The next year, I said, there's too much drama. Aaron's getting older. This is not a playoff team. They weren't a playoff team. 2023, I actually did pick the Jets to go to the playoffs, but Aaron blew his Achilles 4 plays in, so no one knows what they would have done. And last year I said, I don't know. Aaron's old off an Achilles, hasn't been good in multiple years. The coaching staff's bad. O-line is bad. Defense is overrated. I don't think they're that good. And shocker, they weren't that good, and he wasn't that good. So I again, you'll hear my final prediction for the Steelers on Wednesday's prediction show. Once again, another opportunity to say, check out the Carving Up 2025 NFL Kickoff Show Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern. We hope you'll be there. But all of those things into consideration, what doesn't get talked about enough is that Aaron is like the And I could see him. I don't know the man, obviously, but I could almost see him being like this in his personal life. He's like the, well, actually guy at the party. It's like, oh boy, just kind of kills the vibe. Not necessarily the best hang. Could kind of be a little bit of a buzzkill. Why do I say that? Well, because of how he exited his previous 2 teams. We know the drama queen that he was those last few years in Green Bay. Now, to a degree, I defended him in 2020 when, as opposed to adding another receiver in Green Bay, the Packers took Jordan Love. Now, that ended up being the correct pick because Jordan Love looks like he's pretty good. But I was like, if you're Aaron Rodgers, I get why he's frustrated. Man, I'm at the twilight of my career. We've got a really good football team. Let's add another weapon, or let's add to our defense and go after a Super Bowl this year. In many ways, folks believe that's what fueled Aaron to winning an MVP in 2020. So kudos to him. But especially that 2022 offseason. Davante Adams got moved. The Packers had a number of new receivers coming in, like Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson, and some young tight ends, and a lot of new faces in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And Aaron wasn't at OTAs. And then he had a big press conference before training camp where he ripped the front office, ripped the general manager, Brian Gutekunst, but they were willing to put up with it. Why? Because Aaron was the back-to-back reigning MVP, and you kind of have to. What are we going to do? Throw Jordan Love out there when we don't think he's ready? Of course we're going to play Aaron Rodgers and back our quarterback, no matter how difficult he is. Well, Packers weren't very good in 2022. Aaron was very average. He had a passer rating of 90 in 2022. They missed the playoffs, and they still are on board with bringing him back until he doesn't return their calls. And then obviously he went on McAfee and said, the Verizon service wasn't great out here in Malibu, California. Yeah, I can't imagine one of the richest neighborhoods in the United States. The cell phone service just must be just terrible for Aaron Rodgers. So the Packers are like, okay, enough. We're done. You've overstayed your welcome. Have fun with the Jets. They traded into the Jets. Achilles season in 2023 happens. 2024, the coach gets fired. His buddy, the offensive coordinator, gets demoted. They trade for his friend Davante Adams. That, shocker, goes awry. He's throwing pick sixes to defensive tackles. He threw a pick six to the Vikings and another pick at the end of the game in a game that they lost by 6 overseas. What else? They did not score a touchdown against a young Denver Broncos quarterback, Bo Nix, at home in a rainstorm that we didn't hear the end of from Aaron. He threw the game-ending interception against Buffalo. Gosh, what am I missing? They went to Pittsburgh as a road favorite and got blown out. What else? Blown out by the Cardinals, who were mid. So, yeah, that overstayed his welcome. And the new regime comes in. Aaron Glenn, as respected a coach as there is in the National Football League. Man, like I've said on the show, Ben Johnson thinks going to be really good in Chicago, but Aaron Glenn is closer to Dan Campbell from a temperament and from a culture-building standpoint, I believe, than Ben Johnson is. He's more academic and kind of like that's his mojo. Although I'm seeing some shades of Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson in Chicago that I actually do like. So kudos to him. But Aaron Glenn is cut from that same cloth, former player, the whole bit. Meets with Aaron Rodgers, like, yeah, buddy, this is not gonna fly. What we're trying to do here in New York, this new culture that I'm trying to implement. Bye. 28 touchdowns, 11 picks. Yeah, your stats are cute, but they were kind of meaningless, kind of like Russell Wilson's in 2023 with the Denver Broncos. Goodbye. So I have no doubts in my mind that however the season plays out, the Steelers make the playoffs and get clocked in round 1 the way they always do, since Mike Tomlin is the coach after all. Or if they miss the playoffs, go 9-8, dare I say, have the first losing record in the history of the Mike Tomlin era. That is on the board, my friends. Regardless of how it plays out. A lot of those young guys in Pittsburgh, and even to a degree the vets in Pittsburgh, the TJ Watts, the Cam Haywards, DK Metcalf isn't a vet in Pittsburgh, but he is a vet. We'll kind of look at it and be like, even if the quarterback play is worse, like we got to get this guy out of here. Mike Tomlin dealt with Antonio Brown, who was undeniably worse. Ben Roethlisberger at times could be high maintenance. So could Le'Veon Bell. He's dealt with his fair share. Not Plaxico Burress, that was the Giant. Santonio Holmes. He's dealt with his fair share of prima donnas, so to speak. But add this to the list in Pittsburgh. We're just gonna be like, okay, this is George Pickens last year. Like, oh my God, I'm always having to make excuses for this guy and have to cover for him in the media. And Aaron just went on McAfee and took a shot at Bradshaw. Okay, now who I got to defend? The legendary quarterback in Pittsburgh or my current quarterback, who I cannot wait to get out of the building. Heck, look at Aaron I hate to go here, but look at Aaron's personal life to a degree. Overstays his welcome there too. Previous relationships he's been in, neither two of his previous celebrity girlfriends didn't speak terribly well of him. Neither have the Green Bay Packers. Brian Gutekunst in particular, the general manager who, well, since then has done quite well. Won a playoff game. Packers are a good team once again this year. And the Jets, whether they'll be better or worse, I don't know. They won 5 games last year. Can't be that much worse without Aaron Rodgers. All I'm saying is he has a tendency to be the actually guy at the party, kind of overstay his welcome, kind of be a buzzkill, kind of be the, I'll get a load of this guy. Can't wait till we get him out of the building. That's where I have the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers, and I have no reason whatsoever to be optimistic about this renaissance that, folks, I have the utmost respect for in the broadcasting industry. Mike Greenberg, get up. Love Greeny. One of a pro's pro, man. And then, to me, I would argue one of, if not the gold standards of NFL play-by-play man, Jim Nantz. I don't think I've said it in the show. I think I said it on my IG stories last week. If there was one play-by-play man that I could take to narrate my life, Jim Nantz is the first choice. Like, just, I like those that know, have heard Jim Nantz call the NFL, golf, March Madness. You know what I'm talking about. You want Jim Nantz to narrate your life. So love Jim, love Greeny, and others who have had this similar take that I'm about to bring up. But this, hey, Hall of Fame coach Mike Tomlin, Super Bowl champion, same could be said about Aaron Rodgers, legendary quarterback, Super Bowl winning quarterback, made for each other. You know, they needed each other in order to get the Pittsburgh Steelers to the next level. And this is going to work. I don't know. It didn't work with Aaron in Green Bay, which is a better offensive structure, has a better general manager, drafts as well, if not better. If you look at the Steelers' last few drafts, not great. Omar Khan, I'm shocked he got an extension, but for that very reason. But last year in Green Bay, same weapons that Jordan Love had the following season. Aaron missed the playoffs. Jordan made the playoffs, got better in the second half of the season, smoked Dallas, and nearly beat the 1-seed Niners in San Francisco. And Aaron's 3 years older now, off an Achilles, off a disastrous tenure with the Jets, and I think it's just going to all of a sudden snap your finger. It's going to be the old Aaron Rodgers again, or even a semblance of that. No, I'm not going to be gaslighted by this man the way that he has gaslighted many in the media because, hey, he throws a pretty football. He does still do that. He throws a gorgeous football. So there you go. And I did want to shift to this as well before we get out of here. A little bit of a shorter show, but a little bit of somewhat of a preview, I guess, with some of our topics today into what we're going to get into. Once again, I'll bring this up. The Carving It Up 2025 NFL Kickoff Show. That is on Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube, X, and on Facebook. We may have it on other platforms, maybe get on IG Live. We'll see what we're able to do there, but very, very excited. It's one of my favorite shows of the year. You'll definitely want to tune in. Be active in the comment section the whole bit. It's going to be a lot of fun. This is almost a week-old story, but it was too good for me not to talk about it because I was blown away by it. So WNBA season is in its final month. The great thing about October in sports, mid-season NFL and college football, postseason baseball, NBA season begins. For those that are hockey fans, hockey season begins. WNBA playoffs, which year after year do not disappoint. A team that is not going to make, a matter of fact, they've already been mathematically eliminated from contention, is the Dallas Wings. They're the worst team. They're terrible. They're one of the worst teams in the WNBA. They have one of the 10 best players in the world in the women's game, though, in Paige Bueckers. And we can show you against the LA Sparks in a game where, unfortunately for Dallas, they lost on a buzzer beater to Kelsey Plum. Paige Bueckers had one of the greatest games in the history of the WNBA, and that's not hyperbole. 44 points, which is tied for the most ever by a rookie. She shot 17 of 21. She's a perimeter player, guys, from the field. Perfect. 4 for 4 from three-point range, and perfect 6 for 6 from the charity stripe. From the free throw line, she is the first WNBA player ever to score 40 points on 80% shooting. Again, she's a rookie. Again, she's a perimeter player. Now, by the way, great mid-range. Obviously, she can shoot the three ball. We saw what she did in that game, shooting 4 for 4. Listen, folks thought I was crazy on this. I said early on in this WNBA season, and listen, the fact of the matter is, we know Caitlin Clark is the driving force to get it, not to get us, I've been a WNBA fan for years, but to get a lot of the more casual sports audience to the league. The ratings speak for themselves. The attendance has actually been up this year, but the ratings, the interest, leading shows like First Take and this show and other shows, we know Caitlin Clark's the vehicle, and she's been out since the All-Star break because of a nagging groin injury, and hopefully she can come back sooner rather than later because the WNBA is better with Caitlin Clark in it, of course. But I said earlier this year, people talking about, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, that's the rivalry. The reason I didn't think that was, it's not that I don't think it's a rivalry. I don't think it's as much of a rivalry as the one I'm about to bring up. I don't think Angel and Caitlin really harbor any ill will towards each other. A lot of that was fabricated by folks like RG3. Like that's not that. Angel really doesn't dislike Caitlin. Caitlin really doesn't dislike Angel. That's number one. Number two, by the way, Angel's been really good this year. She's clearly taken a step up. She's been more efficient from the field. Caitlin is still clearly the better player. There's no doubt about that. That's why I say, and I'm an Angel Reese supporter. Been one from day one. Caitlin and Paige. That might be our rivalry. That might be our rivalry. If you remember, they both came into college basketball. They were the same recruiting class. And Paige was the superstar. She was this standout freshman at the women's college basketball blue blood, UConn. No one really knew who Caitlin Clark was playing at Iowa. Unless you were like a diehard women's college fan, you really didn't know who Caitlin Clark was her freshman year. Sophomore year, who's this white girl shooting from Steph Curry range? Who is that at Iowa? I remember as a college basketball fan myself, I'm like, holy crap, who is this kid? Like, she's getting like retweets by NBA superstars. My gosh. I remember she had, I'll never forget, I think this was her either sophomore or junior year. I forget which it was. She had like a step back or a deep three-pointer. I remember they were wearing like pink jerseys in Iowa. I don't know why I remember this so well. She had a buzzer beater from Curry range. Like, it's like, holy crap. Paige had an injury. Paige was nursing back from the injury as Caitlin began to develop into the superstar that we know her to be now. Caitlin's last year, UConn, Iowa, meet in the semifinal. There's kind of a controversial call that UConn fans were pissed off about. You know, not a lot of love lost. I don't think it's hate. I'm not trying to stoke something that isn't there. But I don't think Paige and Caitlin are best friends. I don't think they're tight with each other. I don't even think Caitlin and Angel are tight, but I don't think there's hatred there at all. Matter of fact, they both proclaimed their love and admiration for the other. Not really the case for Caitlin and Paige. So I'm just saying, that is to me the WNBA rivalry to come. And by the way, so unfortunate she had the injury she had in last year's tournament. Juju Watkins may throw a wrench in that as well when she comes to WNBA. She's the most talented college player I've seen since Maya Moore come into the sport whenever she does. So, continued prayers for a speedy recovery for Juju. But I'm telling you, we obviously won't get in the playoffs this year because Dallas is terrible. So hopefully Dallas can make some offseason moves, get better. I want to see the Caitlin Paige thing in 2026. I think that's going to be really, really fun. Really fun. Because what Caitlin did last year was unreal as a rookie. What Paige is doing this year, yes, it's not resulting in winning because, again, the Wings are awful. 44 points on 81% shooting as a perimeter player. That's remarkable. Again, never been done before by any player in the history of the WNBA. Incredible stuff. All this for that, folks. Second time my mic has gone out briefly. Show's ending, so there you go. That is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by as always. Be sure to catch a special episode of Carving Up Live on Wednesday, the 2025 Carving It Up NFL Kickoff Show at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube, X, and Facebook, wherever you get your podcasts. You can check the show out on the Grid Network. That is GRYD, the Grid Podcast Network, right here on YouTube, as well as any and everywhere that you get your favorite podcasts. We got a lot of great content creators on there. We are 10 days away from NFL season. We've technically started college football. We really start on Saturday. I mean, for the millionth time, have you seen the Saturday schedule in college football? It's unbelievable stuff. Not just Texas, Ohio State, but oh my gosh, I can't wait. Cannot wait. Vol View is going to be back on Friday. It's going to be awesome. But again, one of our biggest shows of the year. Last time, then we'll get out of here. The 2025 Carving It Up NFL Kickoff Show. Be there at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube. That is going to be at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesday night. Cannot wait to see you guys there in the comments. Be active. Let us know what you think. very, very excited about that. We'll see you guys then. Stay safe out there, everybody. God bless y'all. Peace out. And football's upon us, baby. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.